Good morning and God's peace be with you. My name is Kristofer, and I am one of the priests at St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center. I'm joined by our dog Forrest today for the reflection. He's just decided that he needs to hang out with me while we do this today. If you recall, the last two videos that I've shared are reflections on a place that is a happy place for me, a sacred space, a thin place that I have gone to many times and sought to discover something of myself and to draw closer to God. This is the outdoor chapel at the Claggett Center, the Bishop Claggett Center, that is operated by the Diocese of Maryland. And the last 2 weeks I've shared a story from that place and also a poem from John O'Donohue. And I'm going to do the same today and next week. This next story took place at this sacred place for me years later. On a clergy conference I went out to visit, and this time I decided I would walk down on one of the breaks and pay a visit to the space during the daytime hours. And as I went down, I was so excited, just couldn't wait to be in that place and to feel connected in that way, to have both remembrances but also anticipation of the future and just the exhilaration of the present moment with God. So as I went down, I walked up to the altar, and I was shocked. I discovered that someone had taken a stone and just etched out some just ugly words on the stone altar of the space. And I was pretty disturbed by it. I was like, who could do something like this? Why would anyone do this? And so I prayed for a while, and I went about collecting some things that I could use to help clean up the altar. And so I got some buckets of water and some sponges and just tried to really scrub it down with a brush that I found, just because I didn't want other people to discover this. And it took me actually a long time. I ended up skipping some of the sessions of time because I wanted the space to feel right and holy. And it's not that it wasn't holy, it's not that God wasn't there, it's not that God isn't in all things, but someone intentionally vandalized the space, and I wanted it to feel restored. So I did the work of cleaning that up and had the 2 big buckets filled with water and was just scrubbing and trying to get the etchings off, and I was mostly successful. And as I was finished up, I took the buckets down, and just because I was using soap, I could pour it out, and I went around behind and beside where the altar and the cross were, and I poured it down, poured one bucket and then the next, and I discovered that there was a way to actually travel down behind and beneath the altar space that I'd never discovered before, because there's brush growing there, and I usually would go there at night. Well, I after dumping the other bucket and clearing off the space, I walked down the embankment, and to my surprise, I found a door underneath the chapel. I guess this was an old root cellar, and long ago someone had painted the words, "Believe it or not, St. Francis Church, welcome." I was amazed to discover this, as someone who really connected deeply with the Saint of Assisi, to find that there was this space underneath of it. It wasn't a space prepared for this purpose, but someone had just taken the time to paint that out decades ago. And so part of the door was broken off, and I just looked in and was just amazed by this. And I thought about the words of God to St. Francis, before he was St. Francis, when he prayed in the chapel in San Damiano, looking for guidance. And he prayed, and God said to him, "Francis, rebuild my house that has fallen into ruin. Rebuild my house." I think about the house that is this creation that God has imbued God's presence in. Thought about the church and the ways in which God invites us to be the incarnate presence of Christ within ourselves, and to see that in one another, and to work to rebuild, to recreate, to heal. And I was really just struck by all of that experience. As I thanked God for that moment and that time, and wandered back up the embankment, praying over the altar, and thanking God for all the ways that that is a holy space for us, I was just moved, not, of course, by the act of desecration, but by the experience of being able to enter into that time and space, and to have God be there with me in that. The poem that I want to share, again from John O'Donohue in his To Bless the Space Between Us, Book of Blessings, is called For Broken Trust. As we continue through this time of summer, as we seek restoration in our lives and healing and time away, perhaps this is a poem that speaks to you. Again, For Broken Trust. Sometimes there is an invisible raven that will fly low to pierce the shell of trust when it has been brought near to ground. When he strikes, he breaks the faith of years that had built quietly through the seasons in the rhythm of tried and tested experience. With one strike, the shelter is down, and the black yoke of truth turned false would poison the garden of memory. Now the heart's dream turns to requiem, offering itself a poultice of tears to cleanse from loss what cannot be lost. Through all the raw and awkward days, dignity will hold the heart to grace, lest it squander its dream on a ghost. Often torn ground is ideal for seed that can root disappointment deep enough to yield a harvest that cannot wither. A deeper light to anoint the eyes, passion that opens wings in the heart, a subtle radiance of countenance, the soul ready for its true other. There are moments in our lives where trust is broken, where we just feel broken ourselves, and we need healing and restoration. We need to be recreated. Perhaps this is a time in your life where you're experiencing that, but likely, if not, you remember that time. As God moves into those broken places and restores and heals us, helps us to remind us that we are holy. I pray that you feel that love and that peace and that reconciliation work happening within you. God's peace be with you. Until next time.